to really do your transaction unless if you find another medium of doing it, such as finding a desktop computer with Word or a laptop. So my solution is to create an online OTP authentication system. How will I do this? By providing third-party authentication online, which won't introduce out-of-band authentication. Use social media to validate a user's authentication. And finally, finalize transactions through personal web of trust, which you will create during your account registration. So how does the product work? The user requests a transaction page, fills out the details, right? When they click submit, a page pops up to validate the user. Now, when the page pops up, it requires the user to enter their social media account. But the social media account will be rotated throughout. So in any instance, you can be asked to authenticate using Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, depending on what you chose as your set criteria when you register. And finally, when that is done, the messages get sent through to the third-party server, and then push notifications get sent out to your web of trust. So it has two levels of authentication added onto the actual system. So the architecture. So the architecture, you have a client, which is an X client. The client can be a mobile phone, a desktop computer, a tablet, etc. Then you have the banking system. Then you have the AI API. Then you have your social media account sitting on the web. So what happens is now we want to relieve the stress of the banking systems, so to touch them as minimally as possible. So by doing so, through the whole process, the authentication will take place mainly on the on the third-party server, and finally, by the time the transaction gets to the bank, all the bank has to do is view the transaction and check the signature. And because we have a web of trust with the bank, then they'll be able to trust that the transaction is actually real. Okay. My protocol stack, which I chose to build my prototype, is that it will run on any operating system: Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and Android. So encapsulated, we have built it using Laravel PHP framework, which has some cryptography built into it, such as SSL, TCP, the standard, and which has HTTPS incorporated onto it, OpenID Connect, alongside with Google Push for pushing out notifications to our web of trust, personal web of trust, I like to refer to it. Okay, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Demo.
Demo, yes, I do have a demo. Okay,
That is?
okay. So first, the user, like any banking system, would come in and they would log in, which would be the first factor of authentication. Okay, upon logging on, to keep it simple as an MVP, the main purpose is to demonstrate the transaction process. So the user would enter the transaction amount. I'm a very stingy guy, so R1 will do for me. Okay, and then would click submit. Upon clicking submit, I haven't got around to randomizing and including all the social media aspects that I want to include. So I decided to go with Google and Facebook. So then the user, in a real world application experience, would only have one option, which would generally change throughout.
So your time is up.
I'd like to challenge something. When you say OTP doesn't have